raise it by 0.25% for ones that are over $1 million and still be able to be net neutral or also raise enough revenue, right? So we have a bill for capital gains. So capital gains is just the money you make off of the excess of your investments. And we were playing with different numbers. And we had it at 25,000, 30,000. We have one at 300,000. 300,000, right? So if you sold enough stock to somehow trigger a $300,000 capital gain, that's not selling $300,000 of stock. That's selling millions of dollars of stock that happen to have $300 in capital gains. And you could raise like 700, 800, $1 billion in a year, in 1 year. You know how many people that affects? About 4,000 in all of Washington State. 3,700 live in King County. So it's like, for all the Republicans, it's like, look, you can live like a hero. You're taxing King County residents and you're going to get paid. So for me, it actually makes a lot of sense. And that's kind of the narrative that we're trying to put out right now, right? Like, win wherever you can. So I personally support capital gains. I'm more aggressive. And it's also kind of funny. If anybody ever tells you that capital gains is an income tax, just say, yes, you're right, it is. Because in the early 1900s, rich barons didn't want to pay an income tax on their investments. So through their money and influence, they created what's called a capital gains. It's a loophole so they don't have to pay an income tax on their capital gains, what they call it now. So whenever you hear a conservative person say, hey, this is just an income tax, yes, that's fine. If you want to say it's income tax, let's treat it the same as income tax. Same rates, there's no exemptions, and you just pay it and we go. Fine, it's income tax.
These are job providers, so I don't know.
I don't know. We've been doing it for a long time. There's only 7 states don't have it. We're the only ones that doesn't have that, nor do we have an income tax. We also have rampant inequality in our states as well. And more likely, people are coming here for our wealth of knowledge or wealth of our environment. But at the same time, it's like, if your job and your business is predicated on a regressive tax structure that disproportionately taxes communities of color and low-income folks, that's a bad business model. So, but you're absolutely right. And there are some videos that are going to start to circulate. I think we had a rally the other day where I was pretty vocal about it. But yeah.
How about the free step-up on death? Could that be adjusted somehow?
Oh, the estate tax? Yeah, so you'll see Liz Loveland. I was actually talking to her about, she's a new senator from Orcas Island. I have like 5 revenue tax basically policies. I was like, somebody else should probably take some of these as well. But on the estate tax, Liz Loveland will likely drop one that is going to raise that. That's like an egregious loophole, right? Like you can feasibly have an estate worth over $4 million and still pay nothing. And generational wealth, I'm sorry, I've been geeking out on like the history of racism in the United States. And generational wealth is one of those tools that's used against communities of color to keep them out of things. So when people say, well, it's, you know, my grandparents worked hard for this. Your grandparents benefited from a society that allowed them to get loans from businesses that people of color were not able to get. Right? And like the GI Bill, and there's all these other things
and
as
the
well.
40 acres.
But yeah, so I got you on that one too. So we'll have about 4 or 5 bills that are coming out. And I'll be honest, some of them have more legs than others. And a lot of them are going to be used to start having that narrative because this is how the legislature works. It's what I mentioned before. Oftentimes, it's not so much if your idea is good or bad. It's can you prove that you're worthy of discussion? Is your community worth it to fight for? And that's kind of where we're at right now. Is that we need to make sure that folks understand that this is a problem. Because if you look at the way the legislature is set up, if you're wealthy or retired, you're more likely to be a legislator. Right? Like I am one of the youngest people that's in the legislature, and this is one of the first times that this is the most diverse legislature in the history of Washington State. Today we have the most diverse set of legislators in Washington State. So out of the 49 people who are in the Senate, 8 are people of color. 8? And this is the most diverse in the history of Washington State. Right? So this is kind of where we're fighting from right now as well.
Yeah, my question, talking about people of color, and I noticed that to every meeting I go, indivisible, whatever, we need to bring more people of color into those meetings.
I agree.
So they can speak for themselves. And, you know, and how do we do that? How do we do the outreach?
It's not going to be easy.
It's not going to be easy, but wherever I go, it's usually people look like us.
Yeah. Although this is actually more diverse than
it's a little bit more diverse.
than most meetings that I go to.
Yes,
So.
But still, you know what I mean. We
Yeah.
need to bring in more people who can actually talk about the things and and low income, and maybe homeless.
Definitely homeless.
I'm a volunteer with Low Income Housing Institute, so there are a lot of people that are actually homeless and are working. We're only talking about the people, oh yeah, they're dirtying this and they're doing that, and there's crime, and etc., etc. I mean, there are a lot of people that are working and cannot afford a place here.
Yeah,
So,
give you
And
context,
they can't take time off to attend meetings.
or go to Olympia, right?
Right.
So
how do we do this?
one of the things is you find, I think one of the things is you find partnerships with folks in the community. So Aaron and I email pretty regularly and text as well, because whenever I have issues that come up that I believe will impact our communities, there are key advocates that I believe haven't been included in the process that should. So that's one of the reasons. If you look at the way that we legislate, it's kind of that ilk as well. So for instance, we had a bill that was impacting people that were incarcerated or formerly incarcerated, and we would have them come and testify. They never come and testify before. We had people that were in the Monroe facilities who were caught up in our justice system that I think fundamentally is broken. We're able to get a video conference they were in, first time ever. We had a piece of legislation that I believe would impact communities in the homelessness community. So we had about 24 people come up and talk and testify as well. So it's beginning to happen. It's not happening fast enough, and honestly, it's kind of disappointing that we're even at this point in the first place. And that's why we're having this town hall. So fundamentally, like I'll give you context. I think you're recording, but so fundamentally, we don't normally do town halls in this district. This was not an easy town hall to set up. And I did it anyway, knowing that I was gonna probably catch a little bit of flack. And I believe that it's important for us to be in a space where we are as open and as available as possible to our legislators. So we do a lot of stuff on video. If you follow our social media, you probably see it. We do a lot of stuff. We do teletown hall. We proactively reach out to community stakeholders, to schools, to the Y Center CDA, to folks in Vashon, to folks all over the community. But we also need to create these spaces so that way you can feel like as if you're part of the process. And that's kind of why I kept it kind of loose on purpose, is because oftentimes when you go to these meetings with legislators, they have an agenda, they talk about what they want to talk about, and you sit there and you listen. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to actually hear from what you had to say as well. So you are starting it. I think being able to create more of these spaces and being able to kind of see how you can fit into these spaces is where that's going to be as well. And I think being able to bring folks in is that how you start, is that it's not going to be top down, it's going to be grassroots up. But it's also going to be hard for us as legislators, is because in Washington we're citizen legislators. We have to work at the same time. That's why I'm so thankful for my staff. So how you can help is that when we reach out, or when you reach out to us, you have an idea of how we can be more effective. Like, let's just do it. I'm tired of talking. I think we should just start doing it.
But there's also one thing that we keep forgetting in this high-tech world, that there are still a lot of people that are not part of the high-tech world.
I agree, yeah.
We do video conferences.
Yeah.
Doesn't get to many of the people.
Yeah, and that's why we have these.
Yeah,
this
that's
I
why we do
agree.
this.
And that's why I wanted to make sure we did it.
And I think a lot of us, working, we don't have time to pay
Exactly.
attention to
Right.
this or pay
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah.
I can barely pay attention to my own work email.
Yeah.
I'm trying to reach out to something else.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why you need to elect more people who are actually have lived experiences of the values that we share. Will actually go and fight and talk shit to oil lobbyists to their face.
And on the
Oh, there's
non-high-tech
kids here,
side,
sorry.
we actually have quite a few constituents who don't have access to computers because of age or because of accessibility, and so we send letters. I know the senator is very high-tech, but we do send letters and we do phone calls and help them send step-by-step, here's how you get to a library, here's what you need to do once you get to the library. So
Yeah.
we're doing, it's hard, especially nowadays, but we're trying to help. So, but thank you for bringing this.
Yeah, so if you want to plug in and help on those efforts, we can certainly have a partnership. For instance, what I do is, Aaron is kind of my go-to, Aaron and Steve are my go-to for White Center. So there are folks in the community that represent specific ideals and values. So even if you can't do it yourself, which I totally get, if there are people that you do trust, trying to help uplift them to get to their spaces. Rosie obviously is a champion and a big friend as well, so make sure that she knows what your issues are. Leslie knows that she can contact me at any time as well, so I certainly, she bends my ear.
In my spare time with no staff, working a full-time job.
Exactly. So, and that's why it's so, and again, there are lobbyists who get paid a lot of money to do exactly what we say we need to see happen.